Okay, we're joined now by our good friend Troy Overholt. Joined us earlier this year to preview Clemson, Georgia. Troy is probably one of the biggest Clemson fans we know. Troy, bit of a rough start to the season so far, and now Clemson has their second loss. Probably not going to be making the playoff this year for the first time in, I don't know, like 7 years. So definitely not what you're used to seeing for this Clemson team. Most of the season, I would say the offensive line has kind of been the big story with Clemson. The whole offense was bad today, and it seemed like NC State actually played pretty well on offense too. So the Clemson defense didn't look bad, but maybe not quite as dominant as we've kind of grown accustomed to or expected this year. Do you think this was mostly like personnel issues today, where Clemson's breaking in young guys, or was this more about the coaching today?
I mean, it's definitely some of both, but I think the bigger thing is the coaching issue. Uh, they have Clemson has tons of talent. You can't have a drop off this big from year to year, even with losing Trevor Lawrence and some of the receivers. Um, the drop off is too big for it to be a totally personnel thing. Um, I think the coaching is the issue with. I tend to lean on Tony Elliott and Robbie Caldwell, the offensive line coach, as the issue there. Just getting simplified play calling a little bit to get DJ some easy throws, but complicating the route trees of the receivers a little more. Rather, I mean, RG3 was talking about that. I think that would really help.
Yeah, it was a bit rough look for sure. Will Shipley goes down with the injury after flashing. He was looking pretty good. And there was a lot of injuries. Brian Brzee, Skalski. Yeah, like what's going on on that front? Is this like a long term deal, you think, or what's going on here?
They haven't. I haven't seen a definite report, but from my understanding, I think Skalski will be back this year sometime, but his is I think he'll miss several weeks, and then I think Brian Brzee is done for the year.
Hmm.
There was something about him or the Clemson staff pulling his dad out of the stands to go back to the locker room, and yeah, I think he's done, probably done for the year. I'm guessing ACL would be my guess, and Will Shipley, I would be surprised if it's not ACL with him as well. Definitely not looking good for any of those three, but I think maybe we'll see Skalski again at some point.
Man, that's rough. So,
Mhm.
yeah, let's get to this offense. Obviously, offensive line is the big one. Also, a lot of people frustrated with DJ Uyunglele's play. Do you think there's any reason to maybe try some different quarterbacks like Tyson Pumachan, or I don't know who else you really have on the roster, or this is this on DJU at all, or what do you think?
I'm in no way switching quarterbacks. Next year they bring in Cade Klubnik, who's a 5-star guy. I'm sure y'all know who that is, and he looks really good. So possibly, I mean, next year we'll see. But this year ain't no way I'm putting Tyson Pumachan in there based off of what I've seen out of him. Um, I don't think this is on DJ. I think the one issue with DJ is there, and I don't know a ton about quarterback mechanics, at least not from just watching the game, but I do think he's in his own head now. Some like just, I mean, he's had enough mistakes happen and enough struggles getting the offense going. I think some of the stuff he's making mistakes that he shouldn't make, but I still think that comes back to developing him as a player, mechanic wise, and then also you have to figure out how to call plays to get him comfortable. Find out what his favorite play is. If it's a 5 yard out, whatever it is, roll him out of the pocket. Something to get him a completion to start a drive. I mean, you can't go 3 and out 6 drives in a row. It's just you can't. That cannot be on the quarterback.
Sure.
Justin Ross came back from a season ending injury last year and is back and playing, and he caught 2 touchdowns. He it wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
We I think maybe expected more. I'm a casual fan, not a diehard Clemson fan like you, but
Mm-hmm.
after seeing him really flash against Alabama in the title game in I think maybe we expected more. Is that a sentiment that's kind of echoed there, or is this kind of what we were expecting with him?
No, I mean, I think definitely Clemson fans are expecting a lot more out of him. But the big thing is they moved him to the slot. He had played pretty much all boundary. I think they did put him in the slot a time or two, like against Notre Dame and Alabama, but that was only something they did as a breaking tendency type thing, and they put him beside T. Higgins, and it was totally different than what he's doing now, where he's catching the wide receiver screens that like Amari Rogers, Artavis Scott, Hunter Renfro, your 5'11", 5'10", 200-pound guys that are fast and quick we're catching, and he does not look good catching the ball in that position. I think they're going to have to move him back out to the boundary and put somebody smaller. That Will Taylor would be a good option, but I mean, he's a true freshman, came in August, I believe. I mean, he wasn't here in the winter, and so I don't know if they're comfortable with moving him there yet. But I think Justin Ross is limited, partially based off of what they're asking him to do. He's not built. His body type is not built for the slot, at least not in Clemson's offense, where they do a lot of short screens.
Mm-hmm. So, are you concerned at all about the defense? They did give up a couple touchdowns in regulation, or is this just pretty much about the offense?
It's totally the offense. They need to. It's on the offense for the injuries and everything. You can't. Clemson's defense being on the field for it's unbelievable. I don't know the time of possession right off the bat, but I was thinking Clemson maybe had it for like 15 minutes, something like that, of the total game time. And you can't play that much. I mean, you can't. I mean, it's like running your running back 40 times a game. He's going to get hurt. I mean, and I think that the defense is still great, but when you ask them to do that much and be on the field that much, and you're going to give up points. I mean, I think they ran about 90 snaps. That's too much. The offense has got to stay on the field, let the defense rest, and also helps with rotation of players. And they don't, it's just, if the offense is going, it's not an issue. I really don't think.
Time of possession here was 42 minutes to 18. And
Yeah.
I mean, just staggering. Even like the first downs, Clemson has a stellar defense. I don't believe debating that, but first down count was 31 for NC State to only 10 for Clemson. And yeah, I would agree with you here. I think that's almost purely just a defensive issue, or sorry, an offensive issue, and that leads to some of the defensive problems.
Mm-hmm. And injuries.
Yeah. So you mentioned like Will Taylor, and I know you have some talented freshman receivers, Bo Collins, and I can't remember some of the other guys' names. Do you think there's any like quick slot guys other than maybe Will Taylor on your roster, or do you just feel like you have a bunch of outside receivers? I know that's one thing that's been talked about with Clemson. You know the roster better than I do for sure. Like, do those guys exist on this roster, or do you think maybe you have to move like a running back out there or something?
I mean, I think for this season, I think that Will Taylor is probably the answer for that. I don't know that you have an answer other than him, which I think is probably why Justin Ross is in the slot to begin with. There's a freshman named Troy Stiletto that has showed good in practice and all, but he didn't travel with the team today. I don't know why. I'm not sure that. Yeah, and it's hard to get. It seems to be hard to get on the field for him. I don't know if they talk big about him in practice, but I haven't seen him on the field yet. And they basically their receiving room is full of 6'2" to 6'4" guys that are long receivers, boundary receivers. And I mean, they're talented, but with the way that Clemson runs their offense, they have to have that slot guy. And Amari Rogers, Hunter Renfro, and Artavis Scott, that's been the guys for the last, I mean, since Deshaun Watson was a freshman. That's a lot of years ago, 2014. So I think it's a learning experience for them on their recruiting. Probably they're going to have to make sure that they have a guy or two guys like that on their roster every year.
Where does Clemson go moving forward? Like, so that we haven't seen them lose like multiple regular season games, not, or at least not in the playoff era. How does Clemson go from here? And this is a little uncharted territory. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they come out, maybe not next week, but I think they'll figure it out to some extent. There's been some talk about just the pressure, like for DJ, the pressure of being the starting quarterback and in the spotlight and all that stuff. And I wonder if, with the playoff basically being out of the question and not a lot to play for, you got to beat South Carolina at the end of the year. But I mean, other than that, I wonder if maybe I think last year he did well as a backup to Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor carried all the pressure and the media and all of that, the criticism stuff. He rarely was criticized at that point. And so I think maybe taking him out of the spotlight a little bit, Clemson as how they normally are, as top 5 team generally, I think that may help them be able to figure out a little bit on offense. But as far as long term, I mean, that's a whole nother question.
Hmm. So, yeah, this is yeah. Ashton mentioned a little bit of uncharted territory here. Are you worried at all about like recruiting or anything like that? People being worried about that type of thing, or is it just like this is still Clemson? People go there for the atmosphere or whatever, the culture, I guess is a better word. Do you expect that to have any impact at all?
If Clemson goes 2-10, I mean, if they lose the rest of their games, maybe. But I mean, they can still carry the national championship trophies into the living room. I mean, who's doing that other than Alabama, of course? But I mean, no, I don't think this is the end of the dynasty or nothing like that. Well, okay, dynasty might be a big word. The end of this run. I think the recruiting will be fine. Partially because, I mean, at least to me, a lot of the stuff looks very fixable, and it's clear that they're loaded with talent. I mean, unless Dabo leaves or something ridiculous like that happens, goes to the NFL, does like Jimbo Fisher did to Florida State. I mean, I don't think that's I think Clemson will be fine long term.
So, and to Vince's point, I mean, we have seen programs that were at a high level, maybe not Clemson's level with multiple national championships, but you've seen a Florida State just a clear deterioration just in the program in general. Just the whole football program kind of has deteriorated a bit after winning a title not long ago. So and Clemson's obviously Dabo he's a top 3 coach. I mean, no one would say any less. He's multiple national championships. No complaints there, I'm sure, but that is an issue. Like, I mean, this is a thing where you're dealing with a lot of young kids who have a short memory, and you haven't won since I guess 2018. So, and you've had some bad losses to some good schools. I don't know. I guess how's the mood just of Clemson fans in general about the longevity of this thing?
I'm hearing very, very rare, very few people thinking that it's coming off the rails, like Florida State, for example. I don't know that I've seen anything like that, but that's partially because, I mean, I at least think that if things go poorly if they lose 3 more games, just for example, they're going to make some coaching changes. There's no question. I mean, Dabo he's been able to get by on, and he's big on this. He's always talks about winning. As long as they're winning, everybody be quiet, we're winning. And that's true for the most part. And they lose, maybe lose a game at the end of the year against a good team. Okay. But if they're losing games throughout, I mean, I think back to the West Virginia where they got destroyed by West Virginia. He fired the defensive coordinator. I don't think he's above firing somebody, but he is pretty stubborn. Like, I think it's going to take more than tonight for him to move on from Tony Elliott or even the offensive line coach. I mean, obviously Brent Venables is not going anywhere unless he would take a head coaching job, which would make things interesting for sure if he would leave. I hadn't really thought of that, but.
So, like, most paid media members don't like call for people's jobs or anything, but that's not us. We're fans primarily. So I guess just asking you, let's say, we always thought NC State was probably their toughest ACC game this year. I don't think it's a stretch to say Clemson wins out in the regular season. Maybe they missed the ACC title game because NC State has the tiebreaker. Maybe they go 10-2, and they look decent doing it. The rest of their games they win average score, like 28-10, whatever. What do you want to happen if that is what happens? Let's say the offensive line improves a little bit, but is not great. The offense still looks basically like it did today. They're just playing worse teams. What do you want to happen as a fan?
I want Tony Elliott to be gone now, like before the game even happened, because it has been clear to see that their offense was not complex at all, and mainly talking about receiver play, receiver routes. There's NFL scouts have talked about Clemson's receivers are very talented, but they have a limited route tree. Like when they come to the NFL, so they know how to catch the ball, but they don't know how to run very many routes, and just things like that. I don't think that. I don't know, when you think of comparing the creativity to somebody like Lincoln Riley, or even what we've seen Oregon run against Ohio State the other day, that offense was unbelievable to watch, as far as just adding in a little bit more just window dressing and misdirection, and just more to look at, complicated what the defense had to cover. And Clemson's gotten by on, guys like Mike Williams and big, tall receivers making crazy catches, and then quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence that could have done it. It's just hard to know what they would have done in an offense with a coordinator that was better. Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to see Tony Elliott gone, and the offensive line coach wanted him gone for a couple of years already anyway, because they're getting by, but they do not have a good offensive line with good recruiting that they've had. There's no reason for them not to be better.
So do you think, let's say my scenario happens, they go 10-2 relatively comfortably, but not overly impressively. Will Dabo bring his own guts? Will he have enough guts to make these moves, in your opinion?
I think the offensive line coach may retire. He's an older guy anyway. They may find a new spot for him on the team. Maybe he can go scout, something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if they go a different direction, offensive line coach, especially if with this being the second year in a row of the offensive line being terrible, and the other years it being the weakness of your team, but not terrible. As far as Tony Elliott, I don't know. I don't think we'll see a change unless if the offense looks like it did today or the last three games for the rest of the year. Even if we're winning, yeah, I think he'll do something. But I expect the offense to improve. DJ is too talented they'll figure something out. I feel like I could call plays that could make it a little bit easier, and they're way smarter than me. So I don't think Tony Elliott will be gone. I think maybe we'll see a change in offensive line coach.
If he was to be gone, let's just say your dream comes true and he is gone, what are some names? Any names pop to mind that you would want back, or new names that you haven't had in the program yet?
I seen some people talking about Jim Moorhead from Oregon. I'd be surprised if he goes anywhere, just because he just moved or whatever. I don't know why you'd go to Clemson if you're at Oregon. It would be somewhat of a lateral move, but I wouldn't be opposed to Chad Morris coming back. I know he's looking for his job for a job again. So I wouldn't be against that idea. You come back, offer him play calling again. I don't know. I don't want somebody that's too, and Chad Morris be pushing it, somebody that's too fast paced on offense. That some teams get a little carried away with that, and Chip Kelly and all, it doesn't seem to quite translate into championships. You have a great offense, but it doesn't work. It's not consistent enough, I guess. You got to have something that's sustainable from game to game. But Chad Morris, I think, would be a good, I'd take him back.
So obviously Tony Elliott has been here for a while. And for a while he was co-offensive coordinator with Jeff Scott, who is now in his second season at USF.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make it seem like maybe Jeff Scott was sort of the engine behind some of the great offenses of the past, or was it just that they had Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence?
Well, I don't know for sure. I've heard that, but I also have heard that Tony Elliott was still calling most of the plays, stuff like that. But then I also heard they split, like Tony Elliott called the run plays, Jeff Scott called the passing plays. So I don't know. In my mind, it's kind of impossible to know. It's easy to say that, based off of what we've seen since he's left. But in my mind, I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer that for sure.
You got any more questions for him, Ashton, or shall we turn him loose with any other thoughts he has?
Let's just hear any other thoughts. If you have a rant saved up, we're here for it all.
Oh, no. It's too late at night for a rant. Maybe catch me right after the game and I might could have given you one, but I basically, this is the year for chaos in college football. And so I like that. As far as Georgia, Ashton, this is your time. If you don't win a title this year, you might as well hang it up as a Georgia fan. The thing is wide open. Alabama looks decent, but my goodness, I mean, there really isn't many top 5 teams. I mean, it's this year to win it. But for Clemson, take him home because we're good Christians here in the South. Get him a ride to his house, and that's it.
I
He
didn't.
needs to go.
You were talking about Tony Elliott.
And get back to hire somebody, get back to running the old Clemson offense they had in the 2014 with Chad Morris. Let's see some crossing patterns, roll the quarterback out of the pocket. We'll get back on schedule. We'll be back to beating Georgia by next year. I feel it. I feel convinced. But y'all enjoy this one. Clemson's down for this year, but they'll be back.
You're coming for Georgia after they win their title this year.
I will say.
I think I lost you guys.
You still there?
All right, pause everything. Are you good, Troy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I lost you guys there for a second. My phone is almost to die.
All right. Go ahead, Ashton.
Okay, we're good. Yes, no, I would agree. As a Georgia fan, it feels like it feels like our year. I hate to jinx it. My goodness, I hate to jinx it. But if there ever was a year, dear Lord, please help it be this one. But no, hey, college football's fun this year. This is wide open. You see Clemson right now. I'm in the middle of watching Oklahoma struggle with West Virginia. Ohio State doesn't look that good. So there's some good teams at the top that are struggling, and it's wide open. So it's going to be a lot of fun for us, especially as podcasters. We're going to have plenty of material to talk about. And hey, for those of us that were a little maybe mildly irritated at the Clemson dynasty, if you want to call it that, hey, I'm just enjoying it. I'm enjoying just sitting here watching it happen a little bit. I know nothing personal, Troy. Dabo's probably actually a good human. I have yet to see it, but no, it's hey, we're gonna laugh at you while we can, because we know we may not be able to do this forever. So we may make fun of you a little bit this next week.
Save your laughing for when you win the title, because at this point, it's Clemson and Alabama at the table, and Georgia has yet to be invited over. You gotta earn a ticket if you want to make fun of the big boys, and this is your year. This is your year to get over to the table for sure. I'm saying Clemson and Texas A&M in the Quaker Oats Bowl to see who can score the least points. Texas A&M is terrible. They get ranked in the top 10 every year because they're in the SEC West and everyone thinks they're going to be good. Jimbo Fisher's a horrible person and coach. He shafted Florida State, and he went to Texas A&M with all these facilities and all that, and they cannot score. Jameis Winston won him a national championship. He's overrated in every facet. But so I'm saying Clemson and Texas A&M in some little bowl somewhere for about a 17-14 win for Clemson. I'm calling it right now.
I like the fire coming there. Um,
Yeah.
thanks for joining us, Troy. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I
Um,
enjoyed it. We'll do it again sometime. I'll like I said, I'm switching over to cheering against teams that I don't like. So Georgia, Ohio State, South Carolina, you're all on the clock. I'm gonna root against you, and that'll be my new thing to do on Saturday.
okay, sounds good. All right, thanks, Troy.
All right, see you guys.
See ya.